our focus is on creating a wealth mindset. Okay, a lot of us have talked about how the past years have been very difficult for us. We started 2026 with difficulty. We said, oh, January is such a long month. And we started counting and counting. But some also, didn't really care about January because they knew they had prepared. They had done everything they had to do. And so they took advantage of your challenges, by also creating schemes that got you to spend your little with the hope of getting more. So this morning, as part of conversations on your financial well-being, we're talking about the 2026 wealth mindset. And Kwame Sowu Jr. is an entrepreneur. He's joined us here on the Super Morning Show. Kwame, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Winston.
Good to see you here, and glad that you joined us. You are normally in your office by now, thinking about where the next money is going to come from, I'm sure.
I'm happy to be here. I think this is my first or second time. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, okay. It's good to have you. Good to have you join us. And, this morning, I want us to have a conversation about mindset because we've seen all the things that you've been writing. We've seen the things that you've been doing. You're into energy. You are into hospitality. Now, why is mindset very important in turning one's finances around?
All right. Every great thing begins with mindset. For instance, you're growing up, you want to marry, you want to have kids. It's a mindset phenomenon. And unfortunately, wealth creation hardly features when we are growing up. Many people assume that when you are growing up, automatically you get employed, automatically you find money, and so not many people pay particular attention to the intentionality of creating wealth, and that is what the problem is.
Why do we have that problem? I mean, let's get to the roots of it before we can deal with it. So, why do we naturally grow up with these, with this mentality that yes, everybody's growing up is thinking, okay, let me go to, like we say in Ghana, go to university, after your service, look for a job, buy a car, get a house, marry. And all these things, you need money. Buy a car, get a house, marry, build a family, end of it. But nobody really sits down to consider what it takes you to get all these things. Why are we socialized that way?
Maybe that is how we are wired, but that is why programs of this nature are important, so that we begin to drive home the need to be intentional about these things. And so, for instance, I have told my kids, my young nephews, that by the age of 18, we would have to start incorporating a company for you, so that if you know that you have a small company, you have a small letterhead, you have social media presence, which costs nothing these days, you begin to start thinking of something before you finish school, and then you don't wait after school looking for a job.
Talking about incorporation, there's always the conversation, and we've been talking about this when the whole entrepreneurial drive started. When we were at the university, the Foundation for Future Leaders, when this whole entrepreneurial drive started, it's always don't think about being an employee, think about being an employer. So what idea do you have? Okay, what problem have you seen? How can you solve that problem? Monetize that, and you're good to go. But people would tell you, well, not everybody is supposed to be an employer.
Well, not everybody is supposed to be an employer. Same way, not everyone is supposed to even marry or have kids. But think of it this way. It's like exercising. We are all not wired to go about exercising, but sometimes you need exercises to keep your body and soul together and improve your health. So, you cannot say that, yes, we are not wired to be entrepreneurs, but we are all wired to spend money, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're all wired to spend money at every point in time and you are not blessed to have some inheritance, then you have to find a way, whether you like it or not, to create some wealth. Now, the thing is that a lot of people think that entrepreneurship or wealth creation must start with some big money. And that is where a lot of us get it wrong. The idea is that anything that you do for yourself on a daily basis, once you can acquire some extra skills and polish and design it properly, anything you do for yourself, you cook for yourself, you clean your room, you organize your space. All of these things can be turned into entrepreneurship. So, for instance, and then the other issue is that people think that once I want to be an entrepreneur or I want to create wealth, it must come with some extra money or. And I don't think so. I keep saying that I can start a business with 1,500 CDs. And I'll give you an example.
Please do.
All right. So how much is a blender, for instance? You can find a blender at 500 CDs, 600 CDs, depending on what brand. All right. You can find fruits at Abu Buloshi, maybe 300 CDs, and then put yourself together. Identify a space, your Kokomulele enclave, which is extremely busy. If you're going to do smoothie or you're going to do fruit juices, I'm sure by the time we finish this program, we'll all be thirsty and would like to have some fruit juice. So we just go to, and it could be your part-time business or the front office executive sitting out there side business. And so she puts in just 1,500 CDs. Now, trust me, if she's doing 15 CDs per cup and she's targeting 50 people, she probably will work home 22 working days minus Saturdays and Sundays. She'll probably get an extra 8,000 CDs out of a 1,500 CD investment. All right. If she decides to scale and go to other locations in the ministry area, golf house area, airport city area, okay, and she has 5, that's 8,000 CDs times 5, that's 40,000 CDs. That's equivalent of a senior manager's salary at a bank, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And that is something that you are starting from only 1,500 CDs. All right. Recently in Kumasi, where we had just opened a new hotel in collaboration with the Ghana Armed Forces, it's called the Amia Villandro. We had to set up laundry, okay? And we were using laundry services, external laundry services, that was costing us around 4,000 CDs per visit. So I went into town and he said, okay, why don't we just set up our own laundry and save this cost? So I went into Bantama area in Kumasi, where they sell the second-hand item. And I bought a second-hand washing machine for 2,500 CDs. I bought a second-hand dryer for another 2,000 CDs. I bought an industrial iron. So in the total equipment cost of setting up that laundry came to around 7,000 CDs or 8,000 CDs, okay? Now, we live in an era where everybody wants to have a very good phone. So people are buying phones that cost 30,000 CDs. Employee salaried people are crediting phones that cost 15,000 CDs. Now, I set up a laundry at a cost of 8,000 CDs. All right? And every decent employee who earns 3,000 CDs can actually borrow that kind of money and invest in a laundry. You wash your clothes every day, isn't it? You cook your food every day, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So now you're only scaling and doing it for others. Okay, same way, so the house helps work for others and they get paid a pittance. You try and glamorize yours a little bit. You have your complimentary card. You go to your workplace. You show everybody that this is what I can do. Your colleagues bring their clothes. You go and do it for them. You go to church. You do the same thing there. And then you replicate it across. Trust me, you'll probably be adding some 50,000 CDs to your 25,000 or your 30K. So the day you decide to quit the job, you have acquired skills, you have acquired a certain experience in enterprise, you are creating wealth, you are building wealth for yourself. And it then will require some huge setup costs.
You know, the bit about, say, doing smoothies here and there, some would say you make it look very simple. Yes, you get a blender, you get fruits, but of course, the space that you talk about, you need a space. Okay, so if I were going to set up in front of, say, at Kokomlemle, I need a space. That space, yes, if a company is kind enough to allow me to use their frontage, fine. But if they are not, where do I get it? And that's where the cost is, for instance.
Well, I mean, we are talking smoothies, tabletop operation that doesn't require any huge space. Right? People charge their phones all over the place everywhere. People go to places and they are carrying their phones and they want to charge them. So if you present it properly, and institutions look around the food vending units around the biggest institutions. You find a skyscraper in the city of Accra, and there is some substandard person selling food right in front of you, and nobody bothers. And the institutions, perhaps if I want to do this, I'll speak to the HR. So I'll tell the HR that look around, look at the woman selling banku next to you. I am coming with a different setup that would enhance, probably add more value and not denigrate your facility. So that is where a certain bit of intentional negotiation skills would come in, so that you can, because you're not going to have everything for free, by the way. You would also need to put in quite a bit of effort, negotiating, identifying the right place, and so on and so forth.
So if I get you clearly, all you need is to say, this is what I do. I know I can do this. And then you start it. Yes. You don't have to think always about the money, because sometimes you may not just need money.
So, money would be secondary. It must come with the idea how you're properly organized. And if you organize a very good idea very well, automatically money comes. But usually everybody thinks that the money must come, and it's a money thing. And then they ignore the quality of the idea, they ignore the feasibility, they ignore how a small thing could become great. And so that is where the mindset thing comes in. So anything that you want to do in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of wealth creation, it starts with a mindset. And how does mindset even materialize eventually? So I come to Joy FM, I'm looking around. The element of being inquisitive. All right, so I come around, I'm looking around, I'm trying to eye what you don't have, what can be added to your setup to enhance it and so on. So by the time I leave here, probably expect a proposal from me on one or two things that I have identified. And so you cannot be walking around if you're looking for a woman to marry and you will not be inquisitive and you will not be looking at the women. Okay, so if you're seriously looking for a woman to marry, then you must be looking. And so if you're looking to create wealth, then that spirit of being inquisitive must be in you. Everywhere you find yourself, you have to be inquisitive. And that is how come many of our businesses are dominated by foreigners. Okay? Because they are inquisitive and they are smelling money from far away. So you take the Lebanese, for instance, they run all our major businesses in Ghana. These days, including carpentry. So you go to the Spintex Road, for instance, and Lebanese carpenters are everywhere these days. Okay, so I have looked at that when I was doing a hotel in Ho. I used one of them, and I decided I'll go and spend my time at Sokoban, Kumasi, and then Tima Market. I spent about 6 months in and out of those two wood vending spaces. And I learned a bit of carpentry. So Kumasi, for instance, I decided to do all the furniture myself.
Oh, really?
Yes, absolutely. I decided to do all the furniture myself. And I can sell you furniture today. Yes. So we decided that, there must be something. And there's a country of 30 million people. We need all sort of things, 33 million people. And so can you imagine if you using something that targets just a small fraction, and you're making just a small margin.
Okay.
And that is why these people come here, and then, yes, and including even these days, the automotive repair businesses are dominated by foreigners. TikTok, you see them, they're doing body works, they're doing welding, they're doing all sorts of things. There's a Chinese vehicle service center on the Spintex Road next to Action Chapel. Their prices are low. They are doing upholstery for vehicles. They are doing everything. And then they employ us. You see, so the point is that it's a mindset issue. They are inquisitive. They know that there are 33 million people in that country and globally, so they find themselves everywhere. So why don't we ourselves take a look at what we need, what we use, and then gradually enter these spaces by learning and acquiring those skills that are required to be successful in those areas.
Great points. We're joined this morning by Kwame So, who's an entrepreneur. We're having a conversation about the 2026 wealth mindset, from scarcity to abundance in the digital age. You talk about they look and they see. Some of us look, we don't see anything. Why don't we see what they see?
Well, again, I mean, that is why this particular program is important. I think that some national policy would have to kick in where either there are incentives or people are compelled, that there are campaigns for entrepreneurship. That's why I said that the young people around me, my 3 daughters, I expect each and every one to understand entrepreneurship by 18 years. I mean, they must have their businesses incorporated and they must start something and they can fail as many times as possible. But the most important thing is for them to develop that mindset early enough. And that is why I've taken it upon myself that wherever I find myself, whether it's on social media or wherever, I want to preach entrepreneurship. Government policy is extremely critical. Can you imagine if 10% of our population, probably in every region, just about 10%, so let's say 3.3 million Ghanaians, each does $100 worth of business every month. Okay, do you know that would more than double our GDP?
Tell me more about that.
Yes, and so if you take 3.3 million times 100, how much do you get? Eventually, we'll be ending up somewhere around $100 billion. Sorry, yes. If you do $100 a day business, which is just about 1,000 cedis worth of business. Okay,
okay, so you get about $100 times 3.3 million. You're looking at $330 million monthly. So I mean, you're looking at that monthly,
a
right?
day.
A day.
Yes.
Okay, that's in a day.
Yes. That's
okay.
1,000 cedis worth of business a day. It's feasible.
Yeah.
It's feasible. 1,000 cedis worth of business a day. It's so feasible.
Yeah.
Now, and it becomes even more feasible if you spread it across regions. Okay, and you disaggregate your imports, and you say that these are the things that we are importing. These are the areas that I expect people to go into. These are the incentives that are attached to these areas. For instance, I mean, the reason why a lot of people would say that, South Africa, they don't need dollars. If you go to, they spend only their rand and so on. Why is this so? Because the Levi's jeans in South Africa is made in South Africa by a South African. The BMW in South Africa is made or assembled in South Africa by South Africans.
Yeah.
They don't import milk like you do. Okay? So the cheese that they eat in South Africa is made in South Africa. And what does it take to make cheese, by the way? I can make cheese for you this morning. It doesn't take anything to make cheese. Why must a country import its milk? And so, for instance, somebody must be telling people who are eager to do business that, what, we import so much milk, but these are the steps that you require to do to produce and create. These are the returns. And so, India does that. So, for instance, India has done, they've written business plans for literally every item. So, you take garment manufacturing, for instance. They've written business plans to make the zip, to make the button, to make the thread, to make the fabric, and then they've defined their market. There are billions of people in that country. So they define the market, they look at the prospects, they design everything that you require. So if you are growing up or you are desirous of becoming an entrepreneur and create wealth, you just walk to their Ministry of Trade and ask for an area of interest, and you get a free business plan, and then you take that decision. So a lot of Indians have decided, and that's how come you go to our industrial area and they are doing plastics and they are doing all sorts of packaging materials. Okay? Because their country, their governments have actually designed those things, help them to understand, create an intentional interest in those areas. So, for instance, if I show you that if you do A, B, C, D, you make money. For the person who is not even inquisitive, they know that, okay, these are the steps that I can take to reach this level. And so, rather than sit at home for the next 3 years looking for a job that you will never get, and even if you get it, 30-year-old person, your salary is 10,000, sorry, 10,000 CDs or 80,000 CDs, that won't take you anywhere, by the way.
Well, Kwame Sowu has joined us this morning, and you're saying we should be inquisitive, and we would come across different opportunities wherever we find ourselves. What people say is knowing this is an opportunity, because you may look, and I've read a lot of your write-ups on Facebook, for instance. You go to East Legon, you buy something, you see young girls doing something, you encourage them, you write about it. But you've seen it. Some may never see it. What do you see when you look that others don't see?
That's a difficult one. But, well, the thing is, there is a certain global value that people must begin to attach to. So, for instance, when you see, how do people get to identify that this is the new dance in vogue, and so they must dance the same way when they listen to a particular music? How do people get to know that there's a new hairstyle, so they must have that hairstyle? How do people get to know that this is the new fashion and trend? I think that we have developed, or we have spent time on social things rather than commercial. All right, we spend too much time on social interest rather than, and so we must begin to look at the things that, as they say elsewhere, how do things work? We must begin to move away from just what we consume and move away, and then begin to think about how revenue and how wealth is created. And that thing has to be intentional. But of course, like you said, it won't come naturally. It ought to be taught. Also, it ought to be taught. So for instance, you go to the university and then you do your project work, and then you're going to do your national service, and then that is the end of your project work. Why don't national service, for instance, say that what did you do your project work in? And so why don't you do that as part of your national service, rather than someone who does project work in post-harvest losses is sent to Ghana Library Board to either become an errand person, buying coffee broke man. When post-harvest loss, you probably should be finding yourself in Akumadan or somewhere, or in the Keta area, where during the tomato season they have a lot of tomatoes that they cannot dry or they cannot turn into powder, and so they go bad. And so we educate a lot of people who go and learn all the things that they have to learn, and then when it comes to the practical, so there's a lot of there's a lot of effort in teaching people the right thing. But what is missing is the linkage. Okay, and so people are not taught how to make money from the things that they have learned. All right, and that is where we have to be intentional about teaching them, so that when they see these opportunities, they will be able to identify these opportunities.
Okay, so there should be that linkage between what you've learned and how that which you've learned can enable you to earn income.
Yeah,
it's not just about teaching and going.
Exactly.
I like that bit. But let's look at wealth mindset also in the digital age. Because now you've talked about social things, but a lot of people are on their phone all the time. If they are not, they're watching the reels. And today there's been lots of AI-generated short stories that people are watching all the time, content creation here and there. So how do we take advantage of technology to also generate wealth?
I think it's quite simple. Again, I mean, in this virtual situation, a lot of people prefer to be seen or to be heard or to be admired rather than be entrepreneurial or create wealth out of it. So I always give this example. I mean, a lot of Ghanaians love their grass cutter. You're a teacher in, let's say, Adaklu, where they have a lot of grass cutter. Okay, you close from work at 2 o'clock or 2:30, and you don't have much to do. I mean, why can't you aggregate all the hunters and others, take very nice photographs? Adaklu is just about 10 minutes from home, and so you can arrange, have it nicely smoked, have it nicely packaged. You have photographs on, for these things. You advertise, and then you have customers, heavy do, and so on. They can buy grass cutter from you by virtue of you making that available, instead of spending all your time with your small teacher salary, buying data and watching TikTok and so on. So these are very, 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 very small activities that people can carry out. I mean, the good thing about social media, it's power to aggregate. Okay, when I started Energy Synergies 16 years ago, and by the way, Energy Synergies is one of my companies. We sell to the mines, to ECG, to VRA, and so on. We didn't have, in fact, we didn't even start with an office. All right, we only started with a website.
Okay.
And then we were buying from some of the importers. Okay, so in those days, 2008, 2009, any foreign company that wanted to, and that was the era when we started doing power plants, any company that wanted to do a power plant or was building a mine, so Newmont, for instance, when they were building their Ahafo, they just go on the internet and they're looking for suppliers of, let's say, transformers, conductors, circuit breakers, and then we would pop up naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But there were really big companies who were important. In fact, I'm not going to mention any of their names. They were very, very big. I mean, like 100 times bigger than mine. But they were always coming to me because of a simple website online presence. All right. So we were able to aggregate all the importers who were hiding at the various corners, Cantamanto, Opera Square, who had no interest in being online. But right now, I mean, this has become so democratized that everyone can literally set up a website in a minute or two. Everyone would have social media presence. And so it should be possible for a young person who identify, let's say, a welder who makes gates, all right, or a carpenter who makes some very good furniture, all right, and then you just decide that, okay, this carpenter has no time or has no interest in setting up a social media presence or an online presence. So I, a young graduate, 24, 23-year-old graduate from the university, I put him together with a few other carpenters, whether it's in Sakumuno or Adenta or the Kaswa area. I go around, I find these carpenters. All right? I take pictures of their work. I sell them on social media. In fact, that is what Facebook does. Aggregation. By aggregating the content from everybody, and then people go and sell their products by way of advertising. And that is what Airbnb does. So they have no house. They don't have a single room.
Mm-hmm.
But they aggregate everybody's room and they put it on one page or one site, and then we all go there and buy. And that is the same thing Uber and Bolt and others are doing. So how come if I'm looking for a great carpenter in Ghana, there is no site that I can go to? How come I'm looking for a welder I can't find anywhere? I mean, I'll have to literally go around one welder to the other to see the quality of their job. There is no aggregation whatsoever in those spaces. All right? And those are fantastic opportunities. So I'm going to Kumasi to build a property there. I'm looking for the finest welder to do some gates for me or to do some balustrades for me. There are no opportunities. I have to physically drive around the whole of Kumasi to find one. Yet we have about 20 million smartphone holders in this country. And that is a huge opportunity in the aggregation space.
Okay. Well, Mr. Amorin, who's listening to us, says, good morning, boss. Reference your current discussion. I've been advocating many years that entrepreneurship should be taught in our schools from primary school to university.
Absolutely. I mean, we have to do that because, yes, we necessarily, because look, the reason why it's so important is that it goes to aid government revenue at the end of the day. All right. I'll give you an example. There's a company known as Nestle, all right, and it was started in a country called Switzerland and a village called Vevey. All right. Nestle employs 400,000 people. The town in which it was established, Vevey, has a population of 19,000. But
Okay.
Nestle has staff strength of 400,000, making several billions of dollars, you know. And so, can you imagine if that man in Vevey had decided not to set up, and then he just decided, okay, he will just go with the flow, you know? So, and imagine the tax revenue government stands to benefit from if it focuses on its citizens becoming entrepreneurial. And that's why I gave you the example of 10% of the population doing $100 a day in business will double our GDP. And if you have 100 billion extra and you have a tax component of even 5%, how much would that be? That's 5 billion.
5 billion.
Yes. And that's more than what you borrow from the IMF, isn't it? Yes. And now you'll be generating that locally. Okay? And the foreigners who come and do all sorts of things here, and unfortunately, they're the ones who cut corners most and take all the money away.
Yeah, but talking about it being taught, there's also the fear of how we've taught things in the past. We've taught things in a way that it becomes more of a recall. So this person says, oh, what is this? Then he knows it. How do we teach it in a way that can ensure delivery on the ground?
So when I was growing up, I'll go and visit my grandmother in a village near Achim, called Achim Asene. Okay, and they would use all sorts of materials to make toys. I mean, toy cars that you can push around and so on. And then they call something craft. So my other cousins, you know, they go into school and they've asked them to bring craft. So they will make brooms, they will make all sort of things from palm and from other natural materials. Okay, but it was done in a way that made it look like a punishment. Okay, and so that is where our curriculum must take a second look and bring some of these things, and then begin to let people know that there is value and there's wealth in doing these things. All right. So, for instance, why would you have our technical universities where people are trained in automobile and they want to go and work in a bank? You know, you have technical universities where people are trained in hospitality and catering, hotel catering, institutional management, and you interview them and they don't know the difference between a steak knife and a bread knife. Right? So what that means is that that person is going to go into the world without being able to apply any of the things that they have learned. All right? And so foreigners, again, would come and occupy the space. If you're looking for a food and beverage manager for any hotel, go around all the top hotels, you will notice that many of these positions are occupied by foreigners. So our curriculum must intentionally be more practical than theoretical.
Great. Kwame So is our guest this morning on the 2026 wealth mindset. I like the fact that when you see, okay, there are lots of challenges around that you can take advantage of. And, by taking advantage, by solving these problems, you get to make money. Particularly, I like the bit about, deciding to do a smoothie. And I know a lot of you do it. A lot of people do it in the offices. I have this, I have that. Was it last week? Somebody sold something to me in the office here because I saw one guy taking. I was like, oh, I like this. Like, okay, then I'll get you one. So you can do same, whatever it is that you're doing. And if you do it well, we would go around selling it for you. Well, also. And today, there's this problem that we see. So it's more like something pops up and everybody moves in there. So we saw the comm center business where everybody went into comm center. Today we've seen content creation and everybody wants to be a content creator. Unfortunately, if we were to do the comparison and compare Ghanaian content creation to our neighbors, the verdict would be that our neighbors are doing well. What is it that we don't do well when it comes to the things that we want to do or what we intend to take advantage of?
I think that, again, you see, Ghanaians, we tend to copy because we do not see the wider picture. And we do not see the wider picture because we are not innovators, in nature. And that is where I think that the intentionality of innovating is important. And so, for instance, if you take an item like Indomie, all right, everyone is now doing Indomie in every small corner. So an item, something comes up and everybody wants to do the same thing. Instead of we looking at how we can turn other things around. If you take Gary, there are many, 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 many things you can do with Gary, for instance. All right, not just soakings and gobe. But you can do Pinot, you can make biscuits, you can all sort of things. All right, and that is the whole essence of this technical university thing that was supposed to help people move across a wide range of areas and expand the economy by introducing different little things. But unfortunately, it turned out to be just go and read, no practicals, no competition in terms of practicals and so on. And back in the day when the technical system began, when I was in Maoli school and it was known as Whole Technical School, on Fridays you can visit the Whole Technical School and they had some type of cooking competition. All right, so everybody is cooking something different. Okay, with a local item or a local ingredient. Okay, so those are some of the things that must come back instead of the word university replacing these technical institutions, and then all they do is to read. Very, very little innovation, very, very little practical work. And so it has limited our scope, and it has not enabled us to expand our thoughts and so on and our creativity.
Great. This one says, good morning, very insightful conversation. Please, what's the entrepreneur's name? I've told you, Kwame Sowu, and social media handle.
It's just Kwame Sowu, Facebook Kwame Sowu Jr.
Okay, Facebook Kwame Sowu Jr. Okay, that's it. So you're saying, this one says, great presentation by Kwame Sowu. Let's get that message. I would like him... I'd like to be linked to him for some mutual beneficial business relationship. Okay, Edmund Wood. You can find him on social media, and then you pick it up from there. Okay, you can also join us. If you have any question, you can definitely ask those questions on 055-1111-997. Now, that's our WhatsApp number, 055-1111-997. The phone lines have been activated now. You can join the conversation, 0302-216-541, 0302-216-541, and then 055-1111-997, 055-1111-997. We're creating a wealth mindset for 2026, okay? But Kwame, you've talked about something, which means that, behind all this is research. You just don't get up and say, I'm going into this. You need to understand what you're going into. And you need to know what it is that you can do and what you can get, right?
Yes. So anything you want to do, no matter how small it is, basic steps, understand it's important you understand the regulatory framework. If it is even smoothies, you need to do FDA you need to obtain some licenses or some level of.
Please hold on 1 minute for me. Let me get onto the phone lines because Emmanuel has joined us. Emmanuel, good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, the panel. I'm very, very glad as to the topic you are discussing. And what I want to put across that our orientation from kindergarten up to university is that you have to learn, find a job from somebody, and then that's what's going on. If I may recall, when we were in secondary school, when you are being punished, you go and weed. So that is the mindset. So there are many people who are in the system, and when you tell them to go into agriculture, they will think that you are punishing them. You get me? Most of our parents would like us to be doctors, would like us to be lawyers, would like us to be bankers. You go into the banks today, somebody who has done history is a teller. He's being given a peanut, a clothing allowance, some few car loans, and he's certain with it. So it means the economy is tailored to buying without production. When you are doing production, people look down on what you are doing. A factory hand, when they tell you that, go and, like the man was saying, like the smoothie thing. Can you tell a graduate, in any discipline, that you have completed school, you have done your national service, there's no job, so go into smoothing? He will look you in some way, because his orientation is to finish the school and to be employed. You get me? So if this forum or these discussions are being done by especially the radio stations, put across these things, because what the man is saying is that when everybody is self-employed and we have systems, we can tax each and everybody so that the economy will grow. But our orientation is, let me go to school, I'll be forced to go and do law. And I know one media person who has done law and not practicing it, and he's claiming that he's a lawyer, and there are many doctors in the system who are not getting jobs, nurses, teachers, in which they can go into all this informal sector to produce for the country.
All right. Thank you very much, Emmanuel in Accra, for joining us. You can also join us on 0302216541 and then 05511119997. Kwame, so Emmanuel brings in a part of our education, the fact that he says when growing up, when you're punished, you're asked to go and weed, and so weeding became punishment for many people. Today, if you ask those same people to go into farming, they see farming as punishment. But let's go to Kwabinya, where Eben is. Eben, good morning.
Good morning, Winston and your guest too.
Sure, good morning, Eben. Share your thoughts with us.
I want to, because you see, the caller that just left spoke my mind, and I want to say, because we were all thinking that gone are the days in schools when you are being punished, they ask us to go and weep, and due to that, nowadays when you ask we young guys to go into farming, we thought it's a form of punishment. If I may ask, can't the government also, make sure that all institutions to go into farming? Because for me, from the way I'm seeing things, most of the people in this country are not doing production. What they are doing, buy and sell. That is why you see we take out a chunk of money, especially $1, in importing things, and each and every time you will see that we need Bank of Ghana have to come with a lot of forest. So if it will be possible, government should make sure all institutions in this country Because I am saying this because if you, when you go to shipyard like this, they have a very vast land. Aside what their what maintenance and this, there are some lands over there that I see that what even shipyard can even go into farming. Okay, so I'll plead with the government. It should make sure all institutions will go into farming.
Okay.
Starting from our various schools, because see, from the look of it, look at how big American continent is. Eh? They only have few people who are doing farming, and they are able to take care of the farm, all the country. Mechanized farming. So please, the government is make sure you allow every institution to go into farming so that we all see the essence of it. Have a good morning.
Thank you very much, Eben in Kwabenya. You can also join us on 0302216541 and then 05511119997. Kwame So Jr. Emmanuel says we made weeding a punishment. Eben says, well, how about we get institutions to go into farming?
It's a great point. I mean, those two are great points. But certainly, not every institution can go into farming. For instance, hospitals can go into farming. But I do believe that our secondary schools, for instance, must do some attractive farming. And when I was in Maoli school, we were eating pork. And you went to Maoli school, you remember? We had pockets and non-pockets, and these were meals. Pigs that would be the school red, and then no, the whole school. I mean,
the school had this big farm, that it red and served us from the pig farm.
Yeah, I would like to say that we can polish some of these initiatives. For instance, I mean, these schools that go into farming must have a small shop where they display what they have produced. They can have exhibitions and show they have done, and the students behind them, the student leaders who actually participated in these things, can now be given special awards. It can be inter-house farming competition and so on and so forth. And I think that once we can find a way of glamorizing agriculture, let's see which house can actually produce the biggest goat or something over a certain period of time, and it becomes competitive. It becomes even inter-schools, a great competition and things like that. The same way we do sports, the same way we treat music and so on. And then we can find a headway.
Hold on a minute. Let me go to Butchie where Elizabeth is. Elizabeth, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, and thank you so much for this program. Very, very insightful and very beneficial.
Thank you.
I want to make one suggestion.
Please go ahead.
Yes, you see, many young people may be doing something more at the corner somewhere. But the challenge I think I have also identified is how to legally get Food and Drugs Authority to give the approval for it to be scaled up. Because the law requires them to get the approval to be able to do that. And so I think that the government can come in. The people who are now setting up, if they can give them some rebate or some reduction in how much they have to pay to be able to get some of these processes done and the approval given. I believe it will help a lot of people who are really actually doing something that requires the Food and Drugs Authority approval. I think that will go a long way to also support, because at times even the money to go through this approval to pay for it becomes a challenge for the young business. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for joining us. And Kwame, Elizabeth raises the challenge of regulation and the processes, and even sometimes the monies that must be paid. Says if something could be done about that. And I know you've been through. You operate in a hospitality. You need permits here and there to do them. She's come up with a challenge of regulation.
Thank you very much. It's a fantastic point. Very, very important point. In Ghana, the regulatory framework tend to be rather punitive, or they look more punitive than an enabling process. And for FDA, for instance, I think that it should be a far more decentralized institution. And in an era of technology, they should be out there asking people to come. And it shouldn't be difficult for me to call a courier company, or they should have a platform where I can call a courier company and pay a small fee instead of driving all the way to any of their centers, pick up my item, I pay, I go through a tracking process the same way visas are tracked and so on, and then they go and do all the testing. I don't have to go and be in a queue or go to their office. You pick up my samples, they go, I get certified within a very short period, and you can even have very special arrangements for young people, for instance, and encourage them. And they should be advertising on your station all the time, encouraging people to go on their website and be sending their samples. They get them certified, and where they are wrong, they guide them, take them through the process. And it should be possible to do these things and have as many as people try their samples out, help them, even if it's possible, with the way they are designed, the packaging, and so on and so forth.
Great. The phone lines are still activated. 0302216541, 0302216541, and then 05511119997. Kwame, so someone is asking, why can't hospitals go into farming? Don't they feed patients and workers?
Well, I mean, it's a question of availability of extra labor and extra downtime that schools have that hospitals don't have. All right, so it will be quite a difficult. From where I said, it's going to be very difficult to Agas Hospital to set up a farm and so on. It will be much easier for schools to do that because schools are learners. They have a lot of people who have a lot of kids who have free time. They can schedule their timetable in a way. Hospitals will be difficult, in my view.
Okay, so the schools should go into farming. How about other state institutions?
The security services, for instance, the prison service, they have quite large tracts, and I would even dare say that the military, for instance, where a lot of discipline exists, they have the engineer regiment, for instance. They can have an agric corps, in the Ghana forces, and a specialized agric corps. And because one of the institutions when they decide to execute something, they get it properly executed. So the security services, educational institutions should do that. There's a school I follow in the US. It's called Louisiana Agri College. Okay, so they make sausages. They earn about $18-20 million annually from their farm. Yes,
Wow.
Louisiana Agri College, yes. And so they are always researching into new varieties of new species of lobster and all sort of things. And it's phenomenal Agri College. And I think that's something that we can learn.
Okay, let me get back onto the phone lines. Ediment is in Dansuman. Ediment, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Kofono. Wafu.
Bojase.
Wafu mutile.
Nyamena dume on pebo wase.
I think I'm working back. Any give a make up and take a care. For sure, it's a better linear and planting for food and jobs. In terms of so much. And policy, and like I said, we define what policy. Now, what Tonama, because in chair or in a bad. Just then, it was the bell, 2 months, 20 2 months, you're going to wait. Again, Michelle, the policy program man work. It's on your bad, but official not so bad. Naturally, if you are buying home, I buy Nakasa on my own policy and all motivating so that we should go into farming. Them domestication idea no. And on your bad, I can't pony them more okay. Domesticated than like you need them more okay. And say, feeling sufficient in their food. This South Africa program now talking about cheese, Oh, you're wonderful. Foreign nations when they have a lot of cheese, they will export it. I want to say with more. It's young because you're my able to me. Now, our boy and the lady I'm a nature. Now, our boy. It's leadership. One thing will be Mama Pano can or ye pa, offer your
Thank you very much, Edimens, supporting what you've said. I believe that, leadership should take these initiatives and sell it to the people, drive it. They should lead this, okay? So it's not just a case of people doing these things, but, the leadership should take them. And once it comes from them, people will buy into it. And eventually, beyond being self-sufficient, we can export and get the much needed foreign exchange. We're not going to be dependent solely on gold, so that today if the price of gold on the world market reduces, then we're crying.
Absolutely. And I've advocated a few times that we must begin to disaggregate our imports. Last year, okay, I think the figures for 2025 is not out, but in 2024, we imported, I believe, $15.3 billion dollars worth of items. We must begin to disaggregate these items and ask ourselves, which of these items can we do locally? All right. And many of the people who import do not know that some of these things can be made locally. Okay. And so the Ministry of Trade, for instance, must begin to disaggregate and study these items that we import, $15.3 billion worth of them, and say that these ones we can do them, these ones we cannot do, these ones that we can do, how do we want to do them? How do we advertise and organize a show and tell people that this is the size of the market, 15 billion, or let's say even if it comes down to 10 billion, because we cannot make bulldozers, for instance, and we can make even 8 billion of them. We develop the business plans that I talked about, that India does, for instance, for all of those products that will come under the $8 billion bracket, and show people the way that we have a market here, we can do these items here, so here you are, go and try them. And for most people, they will rather stop importing and go straight into manufacturing, as it happened in the cable sector, where my former boss, Tropical Cable and Co, went into cable manufacturing. Roy, Nexans, and now the Turkish have also come, and they are manufacturing cables locally. So if cables can be manufactured locally, why can't we produce milk?
Great. Let's get back onto the phone lines. I'll tell you what a Turkish businessman told me last year. Emmanuel is in Accra. Emmanuel, good morning.
Good morning, Winston. I'm back.
Okay, go ahead.
I started some backyard garden, and in the beginning, my area people look at me some way.
Oh,
and
how do they look at you?
2 years, yeah.
How do they look at you?
If I'm my Mesa, or what is he doing? We are busily we are buying. Even I spoke with one tenant around, and he said, "Oh, let me tell you, I'm telling Ghanaians, for the past 2 years, I've done a mixed cropping on that piece of land, and I don't go to market. You get me? So I'm using those monies to do other things. So Ghanaians, if you have a piece of land behind your place, or you bought a land, you have not developed it, turn into a small garden or a farm, and you testify. And I'm enjoying from that piece of land today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Emmanuel. He says it was being looked at in some way, like we say in Ghana, because as a pepe, you don't want to buy anything. But today he's happy. At least he's eating what he grows, domestication, the famous Danlate vibe. But that's not a bad one. That's definitely one that I'm sure many of you would like. But let's go to Kumasi, where Kofi is. Kofi, good morning.
Good morning, Winston. How are you doing?
God is still taking care of his children. How about you?
I'm also doing fine.
Great.
Winston, I get so annoyed when I hear amount of money that we use to import the frozen chicken, especially frozen chicken and Yomuadie. I mean, why? Why are we importing some of this and that can be done right here in Ghana? You, Winston, you are into farming, I'm told.
Yes.
But, yes. So, why can't we make it in such a way that farming, especially the poultry, would be so attractive to the youth? For them to, in northern law too, spend so much picking foreign chicken. And it has become, I'm dealing with President, His Excellency President Nani Mahama to put a plan on some of this, especially the frozen chicken and the Yungadia. Why? Has that become a capital state all of a sudden?
Thank you very much, Kofi Nkumase. Kwame, now there's this conversation, sometimes you're looking at people, then they make the point, why are we importing this and that when we can produce them locally? There's always been the conversation about, but there's chicken, we can produce locally. Those who prefer not to invest in it will tell you that the cost of production is very high. And so you will not be able to compete with the imported ones.
Well, I mean, that is right. A friend of mine who is an importer was telling me that if he wants, for instance, 10 containers of gizzard, all the chicken in Ghana will finish. Mm-hmm. Because each chicken produces just one gizzard. Okay, so, but the point really is that all those who are producing at scale and are selling at what looks like competitive prices at which we have to import started from somewhere. Yeah. They didn't start producing cheaper chicken for anyone to buy and export or import into their countries. And that is why we also need to start from somewhere. And we must start from where we must admit and agree that it's going to be a little more expensive at the beginning, but we'll give ourselves time. And so we must have a plan. So year 1, yes, we are a little more expensive. Year 2, we start going down. Year 3, because if we don't do that, we are never going to get there. Mm-hmm. So we must clearly have a plan to say that, well, we do know that, yes, it's going to be expensive. It's not going to be. You remember 3, 4, 5 years ago, Chinese vehicles are dominating the space. 5 years ago, you wouldn't like to drive a Chinese car.
No.
Now, they started from somewhere. They've developed it over time. And now Chinese vehicles are being sold everywhere. And so we can do the same thing. At least there are some basic things that every country should be able to produce for themselves. I mean, for instance, you cannot run a country where you cannot make your own soup. All right? So all majority of your washing detergents must be imported. You can run a country where your milk must be imported. I mean, what does it take to milk a cow? Mm. And unfortunately, these are areas that, for instance, some of the areas have just been left without any organized system. So if you take cattle rearing, for instance, you have a very well-educated university professor, okay, or a general in the army who has about 200 cows, and he has no educated farm manager, so I'm not going to mention any tribe, but he hires somebody from a certain tribe who knows absolutely nothing about cow diseases or cattle diseases, and he's the one running that thing. So naturally, you cannot produce at scale. So we are not intentional about these things at all. Everything is merely a hobby.
Mm. Okay, Gabriel says, good morning, Kwame Sowu Jr. I agree with you. I remember Workers' Brigade in the 1960s. Okay, yes, Gabriel, taking us to more than 60 years ago. Anyway, let's get back into the 2020s. And the phone lines are still active, 0302216541 and then 05511119997. I think we can pick a few more of your calls on how you can create the 2026 wealth mindset. It's very important, okay? And we're telling you, please look. Kwame, you're talking about the need for research, because then everything you want to do also, you need to research, you need to have an understanding. You've talked about, the university professor. And, for those of us who are into livestock, we see this all the time. Whoever you've employed there, that you think knows the job would sometimes come back to you with problems. But by the time you call the veterinary guys to get over, you probably have a problem.
Well, I mean, no doubt, research is a key ingredient in any business venture. You must understand the market. You must understand whether there is market in that market, because there could be a market, but there might not be enough market for you to make money. So those are things that you really have to conduct all the. That is why I believe that in any venture, you start small. I don't believe in taking a loan and pumping it in an area that you do not understand. So anything that you want to do, and it happens all the time. So people work for 40 years, 35 years, and then they retire, and then all their savings, they invest in an area that they have absolutely no idea. You've never farmed, you've never had a garden in your house, and then you retire, you come back, you have $100,000, and then you go and buy 2 tractors, you have a farmland somewhere, you hire people there, they'll steal your fuel every day. And they'll go and plow for other people, and you'll be sitting in Accra, you go there and your tractor is broken down, and you now have to spend money instead of the little pension money you have buying your yourself medication. You use it to so that kind of research, and that is why the mindset of starting these things early is important. So that by the time that you have retired and you are venturing into an area, you have experimented it is working, and then it is working to the extent that even if you resign and go and run it, you'll be able to run it successfully.
Let's go to Amran here, where Yao is. Yao, good morning. Hello, Yao. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, Yao.
I'm calling from Amman here.
Okay.
I've been listening to the things that you and your guests have been saying. They are very important. One other thing I want to add is intellectual property. If you go to Kumasi and other places, our young people are doing a lot of things. But trademark, intellectual property, patents, all this, some of them you don't even know. And even nationally, we don't talk about it so much. Once a while, it will come in a conference statement. And even if you look at our national symbols, the Edinka symbol, somebody will just take a symbol, will go to China or elsewhere, print thousands and millions of the art and come and sell for free. All these things are conversations. Naturally, when I met you at the workout, I wanted to have a conversation on that, but that all of you were busy. So I am looking at how it could also be added to the conversation to have, because China has registered thousands of patents and intellectual properties and trademarks. And even it actually a revenue, just aside protecting whatever their innovations and their creations. So there's a lot that we can do to help our grassroots and the people on the streets who do not know much about what we are talking about. But at the end of the day, this is add up to the national revenue generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yao. And Yao be our last caller. He's talking about intellectual property, Kwame.
Yeah, so that is where I believe that the state must come in. There are certain things about business that the average person needs the state to support them. Okay, so for instance, to start a business, you must go through the incorporation at the Registrar General Department. Elsewhere, they will give you a number of startup pack documents, which would include intellectual property (IP). That is, if you are going to create something unique that you must own, and so on. And so the state tends to protect you in those areas. So I think that the conversation about wealth creation, particularly from the point of view of entrepreneurship, has not been mainstreamed. Okay, and I think that the Registrar General's Department, particularly the Ministry of Trade, must take up these things, educate Ghanaians, be part of curriculum in the university, in across our educational system, so that as many as possible people would intentionally choose entrepreneurship as an option.
Great. Well, it's 19 minutes to 10. It means we should be wrapping up, Kwame. So let's wrap up by recapping everything that we've said. The 2026 wealth mindset. How do we create it?
So first of all, we have to be intentional the same way we are intentional about getting married. We have to be intentional about the same way we want to have kids. And so we must say that whether I have a fantastic degree or not, I still want to run a certain business. And how do I want to run it? What are the options available to me? How do I take a look at the global economy, the spaces around me, the things I do myself, the things I enjoy doing? How can I monetize those things? When you begin to answer those questions, then you can start going into the research, you can start going into the experiment of trying to do these things. And let's not forget a certain aspect that I probably didn't talk about, which is collaboration. Mm-hmm. We must begin to collaborate. We only collaborate in Ghana when it's a party, and so we must contribute, or when there's a funeral and everybody raises money to bury a dead person. Okay, but families don't come together and say that we think that we have our family land somewhere. Where can we raise 100,000 here? Where can we raise 4,000 here? Where can we raise this and come together as a family and develop this property of ours? All right. So those are the things that I think that we can collaborate and do. So, for instance, one of the gentlemen spoke about he planting in his neighborhood and people laughing at him. You notice that these days these boys with trolleys gathering scrap from house to house. Okay, why can't we have the same arrangement where from house to house people who decide to grow certain things? For instance, when we were doing our hotel in Ho, we came across some plantain trees. I intentionally asked them not to cut. So by the following year, when there was a bar conference in Ho, for instance, and we wanted the lawyers, we hosted lawyers, and they wanted plantain for ampesi for breakfast. We got plantain from, and every time I visit Ho, I find plantain that we can harvest that we did not even intentionally cultivate. Now, can you imagine if 200,000 houses are intentionally cultivating the same way in Europe they do for solar, where where people invest in solar and then sell back to the grid. Mm-hmm. Okay, and they stayed by and then they earn money from it. Yeah. So imagine if we are doing this and we have everyone is growing a particular item in a particular area, coconut for instance, and instead of people traveling to add also. So the boys who sell coconut can pick up coconut from every home along maybe Reggie Manuel, and then some business is created. You can find some money to pay your electricity bill and save your salary, isn't it?
Great, Kwame. I mean, it's been great having you join us. We have to do this another time. Thank you very much, Kwame. You. So there are those who say they want to reach out to you. How do they get in touch with you?
I'm in Facebook. I'm on Facebook all the time.
Kwame So Jr.
Yes, please.
Okay, so you know where to get him. Kwame So Jr. on Facebook. Get him. In case you want to meet him too, you can get him at Villandro.
Sometimes I'm there.
Sometimes.
Yes.